Joe has gone on from being a filmmaker and a pastor to now he produces movies and tells stories and does all this other stuff through these two companies that he's a part of. So one is called Rebel Storytellers, which is a weekly podcast, and they also do blogs and everything, or maybe it's a monthly podcast. Sorry, I might be wrong. You totally told me this earlier, and now I forgot. But Rebel Storytellers, if you go to rebelstorytellers.com, they have all kinds of awesome stories from people of so many different perspectives. The podcast is great. And then he also works for Rebel Pilgrim, which is a creative agency in the community. And they make movies. They do all kinds of stuff. They actually have a movie coming out called Hope Bridge, and it's premiering this weekend here at Kenwood Theater. Yep. So it's got Hercules in it, Kevin Sorbo, and it's supposed to be really good. So anyways, let's invite Joe Boyd up here to speak.
Hello. Good to see you. You're supposed to start with a joke, so I'm going to do that now. Thank you. But I'm going to make up the joke, and you're going to help me do it. This is a game called 185 that I learned at the Second City. I'm a Second City alum, if any of you know what that is. Yeah. So I'm going to make up the joke on the spot. You're going to tell me what the joke's about. I'm going to tell you something funny. And it goes like this: 185 blanks walk into the bar. The bartender says, "We don't serve blanks in this bar," and the blanks say something funny. That's how it goes. Got it? So I just need the blank from you. So what's something in your refrigerator? Mold? Who said mold? Oh, man. So 185 molds walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "We don't serve molds in this bar." And the molds say, "Hey, come on, we're fun guys." Do you need someone to explain it to you, sir? This guy got it. Okay, what's something else in your refrigerator? What? Rye bread? 185 rye breads walk into a bar. Bartender says, "We don't serve rye breads in this bar." And they say, "Well, it's a seedy place anyway." They say, "Hey." I don't know. All right. So I started with a joke. The story I want to tell you is about my dad. Because he said as a pastor, I wanted to hold a beer for a second so we could hang. I'm cool. See what I did? I'm a recovering post-evangelical. We can talk about that later if you want. Thanks. I was... Control yourself, lady. I was born in Ashland, Kentucky. I was born in Boyd County. My last name is Boyd, and it didn't help me at all. But that's where I was born. When I was 12, we moved to Columbus, Ohio. From there, I went to Las Vegas. I lived there for 10 years, and then went to Los Angeles. And then, like some sick magnet, was pulled back to as close as Kentucky as you can get without getting in it. So I've had sort of a love-hate relationship being born in Kentucky because people prejudge it, and some of it's legit, and some of it's not. When I was about 10 years old, my dad was a district manager for a gas station company called Certified Oil Company. Certified fan? Oh, no, you're just packing your cigarettes. All right. Never had anyone clap there during the story. So we were lower middle class. I didn't know it at the time. If you had asked me when I was 10 years old, what does a rich person do? I would have said, well, they buy new cars. Because I never thought we'd be the sort of family that would have a brand new car. We always had used Pintos and stuff like that. And my dad drove this old red van that he got from Certified. It was a company car. It was kind of a weird, molester kind of van, but he didn't do anything bad. That's just what it looked like, so nobody ever wanted to ride in it. One day he came home, and I just remember looking out the window, and he drives into the driveway in this brand new car. It was like The Price is Right. This sparkling, it was a Nissan something or other, whatever they made in the 80s. And so it was not a nice car, but it was brand new. And to me, I was like, oh, we're rich. Like, I don't know how it happened today at work, but it must have been good. I'm an only child, which is why I'm so special. And so my mom and I, we got all excited about the new car, and we ran out to see this car that my dad had gotten as a company car. And I should tell you that my dad's boss, his name was E, like the initial E, period. E. Carlisle Baker, which just sounds like the worst boss ever, and I think he was. He was like Depression-era Disney villain kind of boss. And he bought my dad this new car to use for company use only. He wasn't allowed to take his family around in it. I don't know if any of you ever had a company car, but company car is a Latin word that means do whatever you want with it. So most people that have a company car use it for whatever. But E. Carlisle Baker, the evil boss, he wanted to make sure that my dad didn't use this car for personal business. So I ran out to the car, the 10-year-old, it's hard to imagine, but sort of chubby Joey. I was Joey back then. I run out, and I look into this new car that we're going to get to drive around, and there's one seat. Because E. Carlisle Baker, the boss man, he had pulled the passenger seat out of the car, and he had pulled the back seats out of the car, and he told my dad, under no circumstances was he to use this for family stuff. This was only for him to drive around and go to gas stations and check on the prices of cigarettes or whatever he did. I don't know what he did. And I just remember being like, oh, man, we're rich, but we can't ride the car. This doesn't feel rich. This is totally lame. Now, my dad was a hillbilly from Boyd County, Kentucky, and this did not faze him at all. This was the middle of summer, so he marched around through our carport. Remember those things? Marched through that into the backyard, and he picked up a lawn chair that we had bought at Walmart probably 8 years ago, and it had sat outside through all 4 seasons for 8 years, and it barely had anything left in the vinyl straps, and he took it and he put it in the passenger seat area where it was supposed to go. Then he went to his trunk, he popped the trunk, and he pulled out 4 bungee cords, and he took the bungee cords and he attached the lawn chair to the passenger area of the car, and he looks at me, his 10-year-old son, whom he loved, and he said, "Get in, we're going for a ride." I didn't think twice about it, because at that point, I was a hillbilly too. I jump in, we ride around, and that's considered illegal child abuse now. But in Kentucky in the 80s, that was love. That's how a father expressed his love to his kid. And I can remember for the next couple of years riding around in that lawn chair. It was the most painful thing ever because the bottom was wearing out. And I remember riding through all these gas stations he would have to visit through West Virginia and southeastern Ohio and Kentucky, and just driving through these mountains in the middle of winter. I remember listening to, it's a Cincy story, I remember listening to WLW with Gary Burbank when I was like 10 years old, and they were playing these dumb Christmas songs. One was like a Blue Christmas by Porky Pig. And I just had this memory as a kid of sitting in that god-awful lawn chair and driving through 6 inches of snow through the mountains of West Virginia, listening to Gary Burbank, which is the most dangerous thing ever. Seriously a stupid thing to do. And just, I don't remember anything my dad ever talked about. He would take me to work with him when I was on Christmas break. But I remember being with him. And then this weird thing came upon us as a family. It was called puberty. It started with me and affected the whole family. And I became a little tiny man. And I didn't want to hang out with my dad anymore. And my dad and I got some fights through those years. And eventually my dad grew up. He got a promotion to Columbus, and he got a new company car with seats. Yeah, because he's a VP now. He's a big deal. And the lawn chair was retired, and my dad and I had a little bit of a strained relationship through high school, and then we mended it a little bit after college, and it's fine. I moved 3,000 miles away, which is the key to any father-son relationship, I found out. So we did fine, and now we live in the same neighborhood again, just like Ray Romano. It's good. I'd forgotten this story. I'd blocked it out until about 4 years ago. I was asked to speak. The topic I was given was talk about what it means to create space in your life for something good to happen. I'm like, I don't even know what that, like, what does that mean? And this story popped in my head, and I'm like, that's what it means. Like, my dad, I'm an only child, and he loves me more than anything in the world. He's had a hard time showing it through his life. He's not the most eloquent guy sometimes. But I always knew he loved me, even when we were fighting. And suddenly I was just overcome with the remembrance of this story that I had blocked out, that I have a dad who, when his boss says your kid can't go with you in his car, he goes and gets a lawn chair. And he creates space for me. He puts it in the passenger seat of his car, and he says, get in. And I didn't learn a lot of, traditional book education. Like, I learned that stuff later on, but I think what I learned from my dad was how to create space. And so what I learned is, when I look back, and the reason I started with that joke is because I had a time in my life where I was totally burnt out. I had become a pastor and moved to Las Vegas, and that'll do it to you right there. But I never questioned my faith, and I was leading people in a religion and a faith that I really had not questioned myself. And as it turned out, I wasn't really a good fit for the message I was giving to people. And it's weird to be a pastor and have more doubts than your congregants. And I quit. And the only other thing I knew how to do was improvisational comedy, because I'd been training with the Second City as a hobby. It was my therapy. And that sort of environment at the Second City, that improv world, was a place where I could go. They created space for me. I wasn't like any of the rest of them. I was coming from a totally different place. They created space for me, and that actually spurred on the rest of my life. And it allowed me to heal in so many ways. And when I look back on my life, it's those people that have created space for me. I am preaching now. I can't help it. But it's those people that have created space for me that let me be where I am here today. And all the best things in my life is because some girl named Debbie created space for me in her life and said that I could marry her, which is ridiculous. She married like a young white Christian Republican, and now she's married to me. I'm still white. But she's been married to this... She's been married to 4 different guys with the same Social Security number. And she continues to create space for me. And together we create space for these 2 human beings that somehow came out of us. And these boys are getting older. And I was allowed to start a company 3 years ago. And the greatest joy of my life is creating space for people to join our company. I like making money. Like, I like eating. And I love going on vacation. You should buy a company car. Yeah, I should get a company car. And I like making money as much as the next guy, but the greatest joy for me as a business owner have been the 6 people I've got to hire in the last 12 months. And to create space for them and to see them sort of engage their whole heart in what we're doing. And I think that this is a holy moment. It's pretty cool from my perspective to see 100 strangers staring at some guy they don't know, because we created space in the middle of Over the Rhine on a Tuesday night, which the owners of this bar are very excited about, because they usually don't have this many people, I would assume. But it's just this holy moment, this sacred moment to create space, to hear each other's stories. That is the essence, I think, of humanity. And so my encouragement to you is just be aware of this, and as you go out, create space. The last thing I want to say, my son turned 16 in 5 weeks. I had him when I was 12. I'm 42, that's not true. And I had to walk around from the driver's side and sit in the passenger side, and there was this moment where I realized my dad used to sit in that, and I sat here in a lawn chair. And now I'm such a freaking grown-up that my teenager's sitting there, and I had to get out of the driver's seat that I had taken from my dad and walk around and sit in this passenger seat and let this 15-year-old drive me around. It's the scariest thing in the world, but that's that's life. There comes a time when you just realize it's time to let somebody else take the wheel and to sit beside them and be a nervous wreck and coach them through. And I think creating space for people, especially space behind the wheel, is what I learned from my dad and from my son. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.